So welcome everybody. I know there'll be some more people joining, but it's really exciting to see you all here. So I'm Regina Murphy. I'm currently the department chair in CBE for those of you who don't know me. And I wanted to just let you know first who's here with us. First, I'll mention Susan Ely. Susan is our communications specialist and keeps everything running in the department. So we're really happy to have her here. Kyle Buckman is here. He's our Director of Development for the department. And Mike Holland is also with the development staff in the College of Engineering. And then we have three other faculty members with us, George Huber and Sean Palachek, who will be running breakout sessions and talking about some of the really cool research that they're working on right now in the centers that they're running. And then Eric Schuster is here as our special faculty guest. So I just wanted to welcome you all. What we plan to do is I'll give a really short presentation, kind of update you on everything that's been going on in the department for the last year or so. And then we'll have a little bit of time for questions in the general group. And then if you signed up for a breakout session on one of the three topics, then we'll be moving you there, okay? So what I'm going to do is share my screen. Okay, here we go. Okay. So hopefully all of you can see this. I just wanted to again welcome you all. It's really exciting to connect with our alumni in this new virtual world that we're living in. So again, just the logistics. I'll do a really short presentation that gives you updates on what the department's doing. And if there's any bandwidth issues that you're having, I'll recommend turning your camera off and then muting your sound. And then during the presentation, if you have questions or comments, feel free to put them in the chat so that we can keep track of everything. After the presentation, we'll kind of collect back together in the main lobby. And if you have any questions, you can raise your hand icon, turn your cameras on, and then ask those questions. This will take about 20 minutes, and then at around 11:50, we'll be moving into breakout rooms where you can feel free to unmute, turn your cameras on, and listen and have a discussion about three of the different topics in the breakout rooms. Okay. So again, what's been going on in the department? Well, of course, there's COVID. And this has been an extremely challenging year for us as for everybody else. So in March of 2020, the dean walked into my office and said, shut everything down, close up. And we had about a week to transition, to figure out how we were going to do summer lab, how we were going to finish out the spring semester, teaching virtually. We had to shut down all of our research activities almost immediately. So it was quite the transition that we went through over the course of a couple of weeks. So the graduate students were back in the labs in early July with some safety protocols put in place. We ended up doing summer lab last year. We call it summer lab in a box. So all of the students were shipped boxes of tubing and funnels and fish tank monitoring devices and bags of sand and all kinds of stuff, and did a lot of creative lab experiments at home. In fall, we continued with mostly remote instruction, although the research labs were back up and running, as I mentioned. This spring semester, the campus put in what's called the Safer Badger app. So there were requirements for us to get tested. Faculty and staff were getting tested once a week. Students were getting tested twice a week. We all learned to drool into cups. It was a lot of fun, but it worked actually really well. And then there was an app that gave you a green signal when you were negative tested, and then we were able to get in the building. So that kind of testing protocol really drove down cases on campus and kept us safe. So we were able to run all of our labs, and then some of our discussions were run in person during the spring semester. And now we're back to mostly in person. Our international summer labs were not able to get restarted this summer. So our basement labs are extra full of students. But they're all able to work with some of the big equipment down there, as well as do about half of their informal experiments are being done in person. So it's been a really exciting transition back. During the fall and mostly in the spring semester, we continued to do virtual activities in terms of graduate recruiting and also faculty interviews. So this was a big effort, and I think we overall were pretty successful in doing that. And during this time, it was really tough. You know, I think we pride ourselves as a department in getting to know each other, both among the students and the faculty and staff. And so how do we maintain community while we're mostly working remotely? So we held some virtual social hours for the undergraduates. Our graduate student organization, CHEGS, continued to hold all kinds of social activities, game nights and virtual beer tasting and all kinds of activities like that. We continue to have faculty Thursday lunches over Zoom, but unfortunately no sandwiches were provided. We had to bring our own. And we have continued with our sort of faculty staff Friday afternoon curriculum committee meetings, which was a nice way to kind of chill out and relax before the weekend. So we're looking at resuming mostly back to normal in the fall. So the summer will be a transition period, and then we anticipate fall will look very similar to what it did pre-pandemic. So we're all really excited about that. Vaccinations have been going on campus right now. At least 80%, it's somewhere over 80%, it's probably close to 90% of the faculty and staff have been vaccinated, and over 50% of the students as well. So I think things are going in a really great direction. So during this time, we've brought in several new faculty. So Gabby arrived in December, just before the pandemic. He got his PhD from UC Santa Barbara, did a postdoc at Stanford, and he's interested in surface forces. So he's doing some really interesting research related to high performance ionic liquids, solid liquid interfaces in electrocatalysis, and designing better energy storage devices. So he's getting involved with some battery design and that kind of thing. So he started. Marcel actually started right in the middle of the pandemic. So he actually started teaching remotely from Switzerland, which is his native country. But he's now here in person. So he got his PhD in Switzerland, finished with a postdoc at MIT. And he works in electrocatalysis, but really directly, though there's a little bit of synergy with what Matt does, but Marcel is much more into the kinetics of reactions that are driven by electrocatalysis as opposed to more traditional thermal catalysis, and interested in things like using carbon capture to make products of interest. And then we have a brand new faculty member who will join us in the fall. Her name is Styliani Avramidou. And she got her PhD from Imperial College in London and did a postdoc and a research scientist stint in Texas A&M. Styliani works in systems, so she works in areas of optimization of decision making, supply chain resilience, which we've learned a lot about in the last year or so, and then what's called the circular economy. So how do we understand sustainability from a systems point of view? So although her work is highly mathematical, she also connects with some of the social scientists to understand how human behavior interacts with technology when we're thinking about the circular economy. So Styliani will be joining us in the fall. Just to update you on our graduate students, we have kept pretty steady at somewhere around 350 grad applications every year. We admit a small fraction of them, so our program is highly competitive to get in. And you can see that if you look at the numbers of students that join our program, we've typically kept around roughly a third international. That continues to be true. Our female population is about 25% right now overall, and some of our classes recently have been close to about a third. So we continue to, I think, improve in that area. And our underrepresented minorities have been running steady for the last 4 or 5 years. It's somewhere between 10 and 15% typically of our class. We continue to have a PhD program. So some of our students do get MS degrees along the way, but our focus in our graduate program has continued to be with the PhD, with a research active program. The student-faculty ratio has been drifting up a little bit from around 5.5 to around 6.5. So that's a good number, I think, that we'd be shooting for. And we've done a lot of work in the last few years to try to improve our time to degree. And so right now, I think our time to degree is running just a little bit over 5 years, and we've been pushing to get that at 5 years. Among our undergraduate students, the undergraduate chemical engineering major continues to be extremely popular. We have over 500 students in our major. So this includes freshmen through seniors right now. Our female percentage has increased to where it's above a third, so around 35%. And if we look at our freshman class, it's even higher than that. So we think that this is trending in the right direction. We continue to work hard to improve our underrepresented minority population and to provide an environment to make sure that those students are successful in our program. And our international students, I think, add another kind of diversity to our group and have stayed steady at around 20% of our total undergraduates. So again, the major continues to be very popular. The kinds of students that we're getting are very motivated and very talented, and it's a real pleasure to have them in our program and to teach them. So one of the things we've been working on in the last couple of years is lab renovation. So with new faculty coming, we need to renovate the labs that they work in. And so on the left-hand side of your slide, you can see some before pictures. And if you notice, there's gas cylinders here and there. There's tubing strung all over the place. There's old kind of dilapidated cabinetry. And so if you look at the after pictures, one of the things that we focused on in renovating some of these labs, these are actually the labs that our new faculty, Matt and Marcel, have taken. So we focused on 2 things. One is safety, and the other is flexibility. So in terms of safety, what we've designed in these groups that use a lot of gases is a embedded cylinder rack where they can store their gaseous cylinders and then put in a specially designed piping system to distribute the gases across the lab so that we get away from cylinders all over the place and tubing carrying flammable gases from here to there. The other thing that we've done is put in modern modular kinds of cabinetry. And so now what we have is tables and cabinets that can lock down in place, but then can be unlocked and moved. So as needs change in the laboratory, the furniture can get reconfigured very easily. And the utilities come from drop-down openings, as you can see in the ceiling. So this allows a lot more flexibility as groups grow and change in how they want to use their laboratory space. So that's the kind of thing that we're doing as we are able to in our old footprint to upgrade the laboratory space. Not only the research, but also we're looking at a major renovation project for an instructional lab. I think renovation kind of understates what we're even going to do. This is a complete gut and redo. So as you know, as some of you know, at least who are undergraduates here, we run most of our instructional labs in the basement of our building. What we will be doing is completely gutting that, expanding into a space that's across the hall that currently the civil engineers occupy, and then rebuilding the entire space. And here's kind of a layout of what we'll be doing, but I think that some of the artist renditionings that we have will really show you the difference. So this is our current basement space. So if you walk into the basement, this is what you see. And what we'll be doing is knocking down some walls and replacing that with some glass partitions, and it will look a lot more like this. And so this will be a much more welcoming environment. On the left-hand side of the picture is where we'll be kind of more of an analytical and laboratory, kind of bench scale lab. And then on the right-hand side is the space we're taking over from civil engineering. This is a high bay area. So we'll put in our pilot scale equipment in that area. And by using glass partitions, we'll be able to expand the lighting and make it a much fresher area. And we have gotten a naming gift from John Kudemeyer to really get this project completely off the ground. So we're moving forward with a detailed design, anticipating construction starting in about a year from now. This is B103, where some of you took either summer lab or 324 lab. You can see it looks a little dark and dingy, and what we anticipate doing is cleaning up the space, actually recentering it, and allowing a lot more of the natural light in. So some of you may not realize this, but there's clear story windows in the ceiling here, and we'll be able to upgrade those windows and allow a lot more natural light into the space. So this is where we'll be carrying out 324, our transport lab rigs, as well as bench scale informal experiments for summer lab, as well as some of our specialty elective labs that we teach, say in biochemical engineering or analytical techniques. And then this is the old space that civil engineering currently occupies. You can see it's mostly used for storage space. And I like to call this our hard hat lab, because this is where we will be putting in the high bay areas, we'll be putting in larger equipment so that students really get an experience in running some of those pilot scale kinds of operations during summer lab. As well as we'll be using this space for our process control lab. So we're really excited about moving forward with this project. And we're hoping to have it open starting in early summer 2023. Okay. And so lastly, I'd just like to say that our tradition is for department chairs to keep the job for 3 years and then move into somebody new. So I am ending my stint as a department chair on June 30th, and our new department chair is Eric Schuster. And I wanted to just stop sharing my slides right now and introduce Eric, and he will say a few words. Let me hear.
Yeah, thanks, Regina. Just to introduce myself, I'm Eric Schuster. I grew up in West Allis, Wisconsin. I attended UW-Madison for undergraduate, my undergraduate degree, and so I saw that refreshed space that Regina was referring to, and it looks excellent. And I can tell you that having done my summer lab in 1994, it does look pretty similar to that currently. So this will be a huge upgrade and very exciting. I then went on to do my graduate work at the University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign, and followed that with a 2-year postdoc at UCLA. Then returned to Madison in 2001, and have been working in the department ever since. And I'm very happy to take over the chair's position. Really want to work to keep the department as the one that you all know as one of the top in the country, and that we do by continuing to upgrade everything about our program such that we keep putting out top undergraduate and graduates that can go out and be world leaders in their respective industries. So thank you very much for joining us today. And we're happy to answer questions about the department and the various centers in our breakout rooms.
Are there any general questions before we split into the breakout groups? No? I don't see any. I do see a couple comments in the chat that, related to the naming gift from John Kudemeyer, which is a fantastic gift. And as Kyle mentioned, that certainly gets us started. We have several other alumni who have also donated generously to get that program closer to reality. And yes, we'll continue to finish off that project, but we're off to a great start. Okay.
Regina?
Yeah.
This is Elda Blumendahl, your 1995 graduate master's degree, chemical engineering. I just wanted to see if you could talk a little bit about how you were able to continue your department, that interaction with corporate during a pandemic situation. What kinds of things were you guys still able to do?
With industry?
Yeah.
I think that what I found out in terms of the students were still, many of them did virtual internships and did interviewing virtually and started their positions remotely. So that was kind of a big change, but they were continued to get hired. We have found that we are able to continue to meet with people, and sometimes it's actually facilitated by getting used to using some of these Zoom or Teams or WebEx, the variety of formats that have allowed us to continue to have conversations with people, alumni and industry across the country. So in some ways the pandemic made it more difficult, but in other ways it actually facilitated some of that as we got more used to using these virtual platforms.
Great. We will automatically move to breakout rooms in just a second.
Good. Well, we're happy to stick around a little bit longer if people have some questions or want to continue the conversations. Otherwise, I really wanted to thank everybody for coming. We're hoping that we'll be able to have regular virtual meetings with alumni to update you on the current activities in the department going forward. And we're very much appreciative of hearing from our alumni, hearing about your experiences. As we move back into the post-pandemic world, if you're on campus, it's wonderful if you can stop by the building and say hello to us. Love to hear from you. So again, thanks for coming, and I'm happy to stay on if we want to continue the conversation. Otherwise, I know many of you are busy people, and we'll want to move on to your next assignment.